Welcome back to Destination Dive. Beneath this breathtaking surface lies a growing concern: the impact of climate change, rising water temperatures, and increased sunlight on these delicate corals. After extreme ocean temperatures rose to a record level in 2023, massive bleaching took place around the world, including the Keys. Many corals, including new corals that were freshly planted, took a beating, and many died. So scientists rushed to find a solution to save these fragile corals. One idea that looks promising for giving corals a fighting chance in this ever-changing environment is coral shading.
So the shading project really came about as a way to mitigate bleaching. We're trialing a whole bunch of different stuff, but really the shading, how can we best directly impact the coral and see something that's sort of like measurable over time, see how it interacts with the changing seasons.
Coral shading is exactly what it sounds like, taking shades and covering the corals in hopes of lessening the impact from direct sunlight as well as the extreme temperatures, which leads to coral bleaching.
Corals need a very narrow, a pretty strict range of biological parameters for them to be happy, healthy, growing, and reproducing. And a couple degrees of increased water temperatures will put stress on that animal. But the most important component of that is the duration of that heat stress. So if the water temperatures are a couple degrees above a certain threshold for a long period of time, the coral is under stress for a long period of time and can get to the point where it actually can't recover from that stress period when it's bleached.
While coral shading isn't a brand new concept, finding shades to fit the one-of-a-kind coral trees in the Keys was going to take some creativity, a type of creativity that was brought to the table by the Coral Reef Restoration's intern team.
It was myself and 3 colleagues. We came up with the idea of the shading structure. We looked for different designs on how it would best shade our trees. We started looking at the idea of like a satellite, kind of like an umbrella over the tree, and how to make it easier for people to swim with when we wanted to install it, and how to make installing it underwater easier.
The prototype needed to be easy to install and also be able to withstand rough seas without damaging the corals below.
We had to develop something that was sort of lightweight, something that could be installed quickly and then taken down quickly in the event of something like a hurricane coming through. This really serves as a good prototype to see how feasible it is to get a shading structure on every single tree on all of our nurseries, which would be hundreds.
So far, the program has been a huge success and is showing promising results in experimental projects. By decreasing the temperature and light intensity, the shades help reduce coral bleaching events, giving corals the time and conditions they need to recover.
These shade cloths, they come in a variety of different materials, and while we typically don't like to deploy more plastic in the ocean, these plastic structures that are woven are quite durable, and we can select shade cloths that let different amounts of light through. So for example, if you have corals in a deeper water nursery, you might want to have a shade cloth that lets through a higher percent of light because light is attenuated in deeper water. But if you have corals in a really shallow nursery, you want to get something that blocks more light because there's much more light in those shallower areas.
The next step is to create larger shades, ones that can cover more than just a single tree.
Right now, there is a prototype project underway to develop these easily deployable floating shade structures that can be assembled in a modular fashion to be able to shade a much larger area of reef. So we're excited to see how this prototype develops, and we'll be able to trial it here on one of the reefs in a very controlled way.
The Florida Keys coral reefs aren't just an underwater wonder. They are a critical part of the region's economy. Tourism, fishing, and even scientific research depends on the health of these reefs. By investing in coral shading and other conservation methods, we ensure the long-term survival of these ecosystems, which in turn supports the people and industries that depend on them. Coming up, speaking of reefs, we'll take you underwater to some of the most magical coral reefs off the coast of Islamorada.